Bem-vindos ao E-Commerce Cast, podcast oficial do E-Commerce Brasil. Hoje nós estamos com uma convidada internacional aqui, Zia Daniel Wigder. Very welcome here.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
So Zia, in your view, what have been the most important developments in e-commerce in recent years?
Yeah, it's hard because there are so many exciting things happening right now, but I'll give you three that are particularly exciting at the moment. So the first is the creator economy, which I know is very big here in Brazil as it is in the US.
A lot of influencers.
Yes, exactly. Yep. And that space is, exploding. And one of the things that's been interesting to see is the fact that brands have realized that they can't necessarily control the narrative themselves, that they have a lot more power in the market if they work through content creators, if their message is being promoted through them as opposed to the brand trying to own that entire messaging. So that's one that's been, exciting and will continue to grow. Second is retail media. And I'll be talking about that later today in my presentation, and the fact that in 2025 is the first year that retail media ad spending will reach $1 billion here in Brazil. So it's an exciting opportunity, but it also tends to be concentrated with some key players. So that's one dynamic you need to take into account. And then the third is, of course, AI. And we've been hearing a lot about that so far at the event, but it is one that will, without a doubt, upend the way that we discover, shop, and buy.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Yesterday I interviewed an executive and she said that one of the most interesting things that she's observing right now is the changing on the consumer behavior.
Yes.
And what changes have you observed in the way companies invest in media over the past few years? The companies understand this movement?
Yeah. They do. So one thing that's really interesting, though, is if you look at where consumers are spending their time compared to where media ad dollars are being spent, it's not the same. So there are some platforms that are taking a lot of the money, a lot of the ad spending, and that tends to be Meta, which gets a very large percentage of the total, but they do an excellent job of targeting. They're one that many brands are familiar with. But if you look at where consumers are spending their time, players like YouTube, for example, are actually under monetized. Brands are not spending as much there. Or Reddit is another platform that's really growing quickly, particularly as consumers are looking for authenticity in this new era of AI. And of course, the other piece of this is the way consumers search is set to change substantially in this new AI era.
Oh, amazing. So, and has the way companies acquire customer changed also?
Yeah, so there certainly has been a shift in investment to retail media. There's a lot of conversation if that's just shifting your co-op dollars to digital to spending on retail media, but certainly there's been a lot of incremental spend on retail media in recent years. Another area that's growing quickly with advertisers is CTV. So if you look at a company like Netflix, they're another one where consumers are spending a lot of time, but they haven't yet taken in the ad dollars that's comparable to that time spent, partly because they're much newer to advertising than they are to subscriptions.
Oh, amazing. So, and how has AI impacted companies' media strategies?
Oh, goodness, it's just beginning.
It's just in the beginning.
Yeah. So the way it impacts companies, we're sort of looking at it in three different ways in terms of their marketing. So the first is sort of in their own internal marketing. Are they using it to create content? Content generation is one of the most common use cases within marketing departments. Personalization of emails is another area. Then the second is, of course, on the search side, and that's where we're starting to see some of the big changes as brands and tech companies, kind of everyone in the market tries to understand what their geo strategy or GEO, generative engine optimization, is going to look like, because it looks similar to SEO, but it still is going to emerge as being different. And then, of course, the third is the whole agentic AI and how it's going to change shopping. So those are three different areas that brands are all thinking about when it comes to their marketing efforts.
In Brazil, I'm executive of a big company also, okay. And we are suffering with GEO because before customers click on the links on the
Yes.
SEO and
Yep.
and came to our website.
Yep.
And now it's not happening anymore.
Yeah, traffic is down significantly at almost any type of publisher, right? So it certainly hits, for example, some of the informational sites hardest, but it also is going to have an impact on brands' operations as well.
Yeah, we need to learn how to work with it.
Yeah, and no one knows for sure how to do it right now. You talk to anyone, and we're all struggling with this question.
And are you observing this around the world?
Yes,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Oh
You
my.
go to anywhere in the world, and they're talking about this right now.
I'm a little bit curious about the next steps of this.
Yeah.
So, what should we expect from consumer behavior in the upcoming years?
So certainly their search behavior is set to shift substantially, right? And what exactly that's going to look like, we don't know for sure yet. We had Walmart, for example, saying very recently that the idea of a search bar is going to disappear, and we won't have that anymore. A lot of talk about agent to agent search, where your agent will go and then meet the agent from a brand or a retailer you might be shopping from, and then the two of them will connect to determine the best outcome. So I think this is going to be one of the most fundamental ways in which consumer behavior is set to shift. But we're at the very early days. We're just at the stage now where consumers are shifting their search behavior over to the AI engines or through Google's AI overviews. Google continues to be a very big player in this space and still takes in the overwhelming majority of traffic.
Oh yeah, and how do you see the market evolving over the next 5 years? What trends do you find most promising?
Yeah, so I think some of the ones I mentioned. So, here in Brazil, retail media, even though there are a lot of retail media networks right now, it's still early days and it's still growing very quickly here. So we expect to see that market continue to increase quite a lot. I mentioned the creator economy and influencers. Even though influencers are very big here in terms of monetizing them and working together with them as brand partners, I think that's going to continue to grow. And one thing we're seeing right now in the US is a focus, for example, on the nano and the micro influencers. So it's not those with the tens of millions of followers necessarily or hundreds of millions, but rather some of the smaller ones that you can work
Local
together
ones.
with. Yeah, exactly, that really represent your brand well. And one thing we're seeing there, for example, with retailers is using a lot of their store associates, right, as influencers, because no one knows your brand better than they do, and they can become very good brand advocates.
In Brazil, like other countries, retail media are very concentrated.
Yes.
Here we have more than 80% of the retail media efforts
Yep.
concentrated in two players.
Yep.
Do you see space for the small players
Yeah.
to work with retail media well with
Yeah.
the industry?
Yep, absolutely. And in fact, the percentage of the market here that's open to retailers beyond the big two is actually larger than it is in the US. So here you've got the number one player in retail media is Mercado Livre, followed by Amazon. And then you've got about 20% of the market left for other retail media
others.
networks. In the US, it's about 16% because Amazon takes in over 75% of all retail media ad dollars in the US. Then you have Walmart with about 8%. So after that, we've got maybe 16% left. And it's a huge market in the US right now, so that's a lot of money. But here, there will be opportunities, and there are players here who have become very aggressive and very forward-thinking in terms of their retail media networks. So if you look at the fastest growing ad platforms last year, the top 4 were actually Brazilian retailers or commerce intermediaries like iFood.
Oh, very interesting.
Yep.
So winners takes almost all, right?
A good chunk, the majority, let's say. We won't say all.
The majority. Very
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
And in Brazil, just a little tip. We have 50 million of influencers.
Okay.
So
interesting.
it's a good
Yeah.
opportunity to the companies work with this to avoid huge competition in the
Yep.
retail media and to
Yep.
avoid losing traffic for AI or things
Yeah.
like that.
Yep, absolutely.
Some advice for us in Brazil to
Sure.
what to do in the next years?
Yeah, going back to retail media, one thing that we're seeing in the US right now is that offsite retail media is actually growing faster than on-site. And I think for many of the players here in Brazil, it's still early days. So they're still building out their own retail media networks, but ultimately being able to use that retailer data to target consumers on other platforms is going to become an increasingly common way of attracting brands. So I think that's one area that if I were a retailer right now, I would be exploring quite a lot within the confines of my retail media network business.
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah.
So, yeah, any other comment? Something that you like to say for us?
I think Brazil is just an incredibly exciting e-commerce market. I've been coming here for about 15 years at this point, almost every
15
year.
years?
Yeah, yep. I started coming around 2010, and it's been fascinating to see e-commerce develop here. One of the things I'll talk about on stage is that there's still a lot of runway for growth here. So a country like Mexico actually used to be sort of behind Brazil and is now ahead of it in terms of their e-commerce sophistication. So for Brazil, you still got a big opportunity for this area to grow, and I think you're going to continue to see growth going forward, even with the kind of crazy situation we've got going on right now with tariffs.
Zia, thank you so much for
Yeah.
your time, for your attention. I will
Absolutely.
switch to Portuguese to say goodbye to our customers.
Okay.
Pessoal, esse foi o E-Commerce Cast, podcast oficial do E-Commerce Brasil, disponível em todas as plataformas. Fiquem ligados, até a próxima. Valeu!